Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the sponsor of this bill and I have gone a couple of rounds already on this one, mostly through the media over the summer, and I do thank him for his diligence and for his recognition of a problem and an attempt to do something with it. The problem is it's not the right thing to do. And there's a couple of reasons why that is the case. For starters, this bill does absolutely nothing to stop people from stealing copper or any other prohibited scrap metal. Nothing. Nothing. What this does is take down everybody's personal information in the hopes that they might be able to have a paper trail good enough to be able to catch somebody who might have stolen something. But in the meantime, we have subjected every single Albertan who's walked through the door and done any kind of an exchange on scrap metal, we've taken their personal information. Now, is that a problem? Yes, it is a problem. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples where personal information has been collected by a government or a police force for one purpose and it gets used for another purpose. It's just too great a temptation, it seems, that once particularly police forces, but also other individuals, even, let's face it, candidates for election, boy, they see all those lists and names and they just think, wow, we could market to them, or we could use this to catch other things, or whatever their little minds can come up with. So here's a couple of examples, very recent, where information collected using surveillance or a direct request for information has turned around on law-abiding citizens. In Brussels, they have decided to fine people who are cursing in public. And how are they going to find these cursing people? They're going to use the closed-circuit television. Okay. Was that closed-circuit television put in place to catch people who say shucks or darn or heck in public? No. They were supposedly put in place to catch terrible murderers and thieves of large amounts of money, but they're now going to use it to read people's lips and chase them down and fine them for cursing. I don't think that's quite what people had in mind when they put in those closed-circuit televisions. Nonetheless, that's how they're going to use it. Is that what they intended when they first put that? No, it wasn't. Here's another one. A large hospitality consortium here in the wonderful City of Edmonton, with a number of locations in the fabulous constituency of Edmonton Centre, had shut down a few locations and found that they had been broken into and had a USB memory stick containing employees' personal information stolen. There was no video that was doing surveillance on their location, and the alarm system didn't work. Nonetheless, out there somewhere is a non-encrypted memory stick containing the personal information, home address, social security number, description, photo, signature of every employee that hospitality consortium had ever had. They don't know where it is. They don't know how to get it back. Also, this same hospitality consortium regularly, with the blessing of this government, because I was here when it was debated, collects and takes a copy of every person who comes into their establishment of their driver's license, which again includes a photograph, a signature, a home address, a description of what they look like. It's a lot of information. And they scan that information because they were going to help bring down drug dealers and terrible people that were causing problems in these bars. Is that what they used it for? No. What they used it for was to get dates with some of the pretty girls that happened to go through. Not quite what they'd said they were going to use it for. And the last example is stolen credit cards. So I tried to phone and report a stolen credit card, and I couldn't, despite the fact I was giving the full legal name of the individual who owned the card, 2 addresses by which they were legal addresses they could track them down in, one in the States and one in Canada, and their date of birth, which should be good information to be able to track anyone down. This company couldn't do it. Could not locate the person and their credit card number. Now, why is that? Well, I finally found out after a lot of digging, this in fact was not Visa. This was a contracted company that deals with stolen visas, but only the black ones and the gold ones. Because they kept saying, what color is the card? I kept going, it doesn't matter, it's stolen. Well, we don't deal with the blue ones. Oh, okay. So what were they doing with all of this information? And they couldn't even manage to find the right person. Is that why you gave all your information to Visa? So it could go to a contracted company so they could manage not to locate you when your card is actually stolen? What is it that happens with personal information? You know where the biggest breaches of personal information is? Somebody knowing they're not supposed to use that information and doing it anyway. Those are where the breaches always happen, almost always. It's not security, it's not technology, it's individuals knowing they're not supposed to do that and doing it anyway. So back to this bill. We have a bill that says this is going to stop people stealing copper. How? What it's going to do is take down the information of everybody that comes in there to sell or trade copper. So my dad, God bless him, who's collected every single thing he's ever used in his life, it's all neatly tied up, it's all inventory. When he passes over, won't be soon, I will have to go and dismantle that garage and sell all of this stuff he's collected, all the acetylene torches and the welding and the arc welders and pipe and the solder stuff and all the gubbins that someone like that collects. And I will be taking in copper wire that an old man has collected. But now I will have to give all of my personal information because I might be a bad guy and they need a paper trail on me. Did it stop the guy next door from stealing the copper wire? No, it didn't. But it does give personal information over to a small business individual, and let's talk about them. We supposedly love small business people. Why on earth would we put them in a position where they have to now go out and probably get a computer system and probably send someone to be trained on it? Because how many of you have been in a scrap metal dealer that was neat and tidy and every piece of paper was as white as snow? Ah, no answer. Well, I bet you they're not going to be keeping this information on recipe cards in a little box. They're going to end up having to put in a computer system, and that's not a small amount of money for someone whose profit margin is pretty small. So now we've got a system that doesn't do what it says it does. It does collect information on every single person who walks through the door and basically makes criminals or treats every decent law-abiding person as a criminal because it's creating a paper trail for a possible thief somewhere, and it creates an additional burden of expense, time, training, for a small business person. How is this effective in the slightest? It's not. And I don't blame the member who has proposed it because he's trying to address something. But this constant default to, well, let's capture everybody's personal information and that'll solve the problem. Well, it doesn't solve the problem. And this bill is not going to solve the problem. It's going to collect a lot of people's personal information. Now, let me loop back to where I started. Why is collecting people's personal information a big deal? Why is it a problem? Because it gets abused. Because those very people that are supposed to know that they're not supposed to fool around with it, fool around with it. Those people that look at it and go, oh my goodness, look at that, that's a whole cache of information we could market to, or we could capture them for some other use. They go ahead and they do that, even though that's not what you wanted. So it doesn't stop the thieving. It does collect information, and that information ends up getting into other people's hands and being used for purposes that you didn't sign up for. When you actually look at the information, it's not giving us a lot of what is going to go on there. And I'm aware that I'm going to run out of time here, Mr. Speaker, but let's just start with a scrap metal dealer shall inform a person. We'll inform them how? a sign on the door. They have to say it verbally to every person that comes in there. They wear a T-shirt that says this. What? How are they supposed to inform? It then goes on to say that they have to hang on to that information for a minimum of 1 year after the transaction, but gives no maximum. So this small business person is now supposed to keep files forever? I guess so. Now we've incurred storage costs for a small business person. Please don't support this bill. Nice idea, bad implementation.
Thank you, honourable member.